Hey there, guys. Today we're talking crypto and blockchain. It's overrated, it's underrated, and much, much more. Here's 11 bold predictions. So, first, let's jump into blockchain. Let's jump into technology in general. Humanity has a dirty little habit of overestimating the short term and underestimating the long term. People always think, oh my God, this is the next big thing and things are about to explode. It always takes longer. If you look at technological trends, goes up, drops down a little bit in the dip, the trial of sorrow, disillusionment, whatever you want to call it, and then it takes off. And that is kind of where we are right now with the blockchain movement. Things have dropped down a little bit. We're definitely in a little bit of a dip. But that said, even the hardcore blockchain enthusiasts are still overly optimistic and hyping things to the moon. Hype cycles. There's the instant gratification. We've had the dot-com bust. Things go up, things go down, and then things with fundamental value they take off again. And I think a lot of blockchain will be taking off again, but we have definitely seen a bit of a dip. Crypto, though, regardless of where we're at now, it's still a massive bubble. Everything is built around speculation. It's built around expectations. People want to make a ton of profit. We saw this in 2016, 2017. The values just go up and up and up and up because everyone did not want to miss out on blockchain. They saw it on CNN Fast Money. They saw it on whatever YouTuber they were watching, and they were like, oh my God, this guy's made so much money. I gotta get in on this. Well, anyone who thought like that without really understanding the technology, A, is a sucker, and they probably lost a lot of money, and B, they might be lucky if they're still holding on. But most people that don't understand technology, that aren't necessarily plugged into what's happening, they're probably not the kind of people that are going to be holding on and playing the long game, so they've probably already sold and will be losing money. The federal government, the Fed, the US, most governments around the world are a bit worried about when it comes to blockchain. They're worried for a couple of reasons. A, they're worried because of the decentralization of money. If you have non-political money, that takes away one of the major choke points, so to speak, of government. You have force, you have money, and you have support, and a lot of governments don't offer much support. So if you lose the money, it just comes down to force. But in terms of where we're headed right now, the fact that blockchain and Bitcoin aren't regulated, there's incredible advantages for that, but there's also incredible disadvantages. So if we do start to see a scenario that's like a stock market crash, but for blockchain, which we've seen a little bit, but we haven't seen that much. The fact that there's no regulations means there's no closing the banks. They can't shut the doors and keep people out. They can't stop people from taking their money out. So the sales continue and continue and continue. And while blockchain can exponentially grow because there are no rules, it can also exponentially decline because there's no stopgap. There's nothing to prevent people from having a massive run on the bank at all hours of the day with exponentially faster decline. It could be pretty interesting. Right now, so far, the best applications of blockchain we've seen have been ICOs, most of which have been pretty scammy. The vast majority are still not operating anymore and have gone out of business. That said, though, there is a lot of potential in empowering startups and entrepreneurs around the world and in ways for alternative capital formation. This can be a very interesting space in the future, but it's a space that up until today has been pretty scammy and slimy. There's been so much fraud, and I don't know about you, but I get LinkedIn messages all the day for people wanting to invest, wanting me to be an advisor, whatever it is. It's an exciting future, but there's a lot of con artists. Let's jump into 11 bold predictions. I think the obvious first one is going to be the sci-fi future. We're going to be wearing bracelets, rings, etc., or maybe embedded in our hands will be our money. There's not a lot of reason to have cash. And if you have digital cash, if you have cryptocurrency, if you have something secure, maybe I have a bracelet or a ring that's detecting my blood type or detecting something about my DNA to be able to see, yes, this is me, this is Matt, he is still alive, okay, he can spend his money. He can spend his money, and we bump fists, and suddenly I transferred my money over to another guy. I think this is something we've seen in the movies that we will be moving towards because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to carry around money, etc., when you can have your identification built into you or in some type of wearable device, which we will be wearing much, much more. I think number two, we're living in a massive hype cycle right now. There's instant gratification. Number two, some governments are going to embrace crypto while others will completely dispel it and try to ban it. I think the ones that ban crypto will ultimately have trouble in the future because there is a lot of value that comes from the technology that comes from decentralization, better governance, better voting structures, etc. And the ones that accept it, it will redefine what it means to have a government. If we're able to have voting via the blockchain, which up until today has not been very successful, but if we're able to get into things of that nature or non-governmental money, it kind of redefines what it means to be government. It also makes people much, much more able to transfer themselves around, which is number three. It democratizes access to the world, so to speak. You're able to live anywhere without having some type of restriction holding you in place on where you live and how you live with your family, etc. It's going to be really interesting, especially for U.S. folks who currently live in a tax slavery, where if you're a U.S. citizen, even if you're born a U.S. citizen, guess what? You're paying taxes for the rest of your life, no matter where you live. That's a pretty crappy situation for entrepreneurs, especially if they're living somewhere else. If you like this so far, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, fringe.fm/iTunes/Android, or just go to fringe.fm. I interview the world leaders in the fields of cryptocurrency, AI, genetics, space, human longevity, you name it. If it's transformational technology affecting our future, I have the world leaders on for hour and a half, 2 hour long conversations where we discuss all of the converging exponential technologies. Again, that's fringe.fm. But back to blockchain. Blockchain is going to simplify records. It's going to cut out a ton of paperwork, and this is going to be both great and terrible for government, because most people in government right now are currently just dealing with paperwork. They're dealing with stacks upon stacks upon stacks. If you ever look at laws, etc., these things go to the ceiling in terms of pure paperwork. Well, if we're able to get rid of a lot of that paperwork, we can get rid of a lot of these employee jobs in government. Government has way too much spend as it is. By reducing that a bit, making government a little bit smaller but more efficient and able to accomplish more, that will be a major plus. 5, smart contracts I think are overrated. So 6, sorry. Smart contracts are overrated. There's so many bugs when it comes to coding anything that to be able to have a secure smart contract is something that will be very, very challenging for people to be able to put their money on the line. If I have a smart contract for a will and I die, I want to make really damn sure that my money goes to my family. I don't want it to be stuck in some stupid smart contract because the DAO or whatever company messed something up. So I think smart contracts have a really, really far way to go in terms of debugging and consistency. You're not getting hacked. You're not having errors happen, etc., where there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are just completely lost or wiped out, which we've seen several times with Ethereum already. Okay, 7, all stocks are going to be tokenized. I don't think the stock market has a big future in terms of paper stocks. It just makes no sense in today's digital era, especially considering how fast and efficient the blockchain can make some of this. You can eliminate fraud, you can prevent ISIS from buying Apple stock, etc. You can do some really interesting things with the technology. So that's a pretty straightforward, obvious one. 8, blockchain is going to increase the liquidity and volatility of the real estate market. If you look at liquidity is proportional to volatility. The faster something's able to be traded, the more volatile it becomes over time for a lot of assets. I think with real estate, typically things have been pretty slow and stagnant. They move up, they move down. But if you're able to move things much more quickly, I foresee things becoming more volatile because suddenly you have much more access to this. Healthcare, that'll be the biggest impact of all. It's a $3.7 trillion market in the US alone in 2018, and it's projected to be as much as 20% of the GDP by 2020. A, we all know it's completely broken. B, a big part of the reason it's broken is there's 3 different parties. There's the payers, the providers, and the actual patients. And C, the major problem is paperwork. There's so much paperwork in healthcare that it just makes everything expensive, stupidly expensive, that should not be expensive. If you like this, make sure you follow me on Twitter, mattward.io. You can also find my personal website, mattward.io, or find us on fringe.fm. Number 9, what's going to happen next? Sorry, healthcare. When you have healthcare records on the blockchain, you can make things secure. You can allow individuals, patients, to get their own records more easily, which is a nightmare right now. And you can apply a lot more data and machine learning to what's happening for health conditions on an individual and a countrywide or demographic-wide basis. If you can see, wow, all of these individuals have these different errors, they have these different problems. These guys are all getting cancer. These guys are all obese. What is it that ties them together? By being able to look into the data and find these trends, we can make people healthier. We can make healthcare cheaper. We can make people happier, more successful. It's incredible how bad healthcare is, and it's incredible how good things can become. And number 10, which is actually 11, it looks like I can't count. No, 10. Crypto could lead to a Minority Report type situation. So privacy could become a thing of the past. If governments issue governmental digital crypto type currencies, they won't technically be cryptocurrencies. But if they issue blockchain type currencies, but it's just the US, it's the bit dollar from the US, suddenly they're able to bake in any type of tracking, anything they want into money and be able to see who sends money to who. So maybe you sell some flowers for $5 to somebody on the side of the road. Oops, you forgot to report that to the government. The IRS got you. Maybe you sent money to your sister who has a brother over in China. Wait a sec, we're not sure how we feel about China, so maybe we need to put some more monitoring on you. All of your information will become public, which is a little bit ironic because most illegal transactions happen via cash. So the fact that people are upset about blockchain and cryptocurrency, it can only really help governments unless you see like a Monero or a Zcash, et cetera, where they have secure privacy built into every transaction. So there could be some pretty bad things happening from ubiquitous blockchain society where governments are able to access your financial data, and so is everyone else. I think a lot of the new networks are going to overthrow existing large incumbents, tech incumbents specifically. You've got your Google, your Facebook, your Uber, your Airbnb, et cetera. You've got all of these large monopolies, and they are, in essence, monopolies. That's why they make so much money. I'm an angel investor, and I like to invest in companies that I think can become a monopoly, because monopolies are where you make the most money. It's not the first mover, as Peter Thiel says. You're better off being the last mover. You want to be the last iPhone, the last ride-sharing app, the last social media company, because that's the one that lasts indefinitely. That's the one that makes the money. And I think it'll be interesting to see how blockchain is able to play into this existing ecosystem with the incentives. If I can get you incentivized to list on MatBnB instead of Airbnb, and you get tokens, etc., maybe we can start getting more people listing there, start getting more people booking through MatBnB, etc., and have a real run at defeating a monopoly like Airbnb. Typically, it's impossible because you're not able to just decrease costs. Decreasing costs won't lead to a 5 to 10x improvement in customer experience, but paying people sure as hell will. If you're paying me to use something, I'm probably going to use that instead of something else. So it'll be really interesting to see how those play out. Those are my 11 bold predictions in terms of crypto markets, blockchain, and where we're headed as a future. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear them. On Twitter, I'm MattWardIO. You can leave comments there, or leave comments here in the video. We'll respond to those. And make sure that you hit the subscribe button here so that you do not miss a thing. If you found this fun and interesting, I'm sure you'll like my other channel and show, Fringe FM. Here's some information right here in the video. If you go to fringe.fm, you can find us, and we're also available on all major podcasting apps, including YouTube. So just search fringe.fm, no spaces, if you're interested in exponential technology and where we're all headed. I'm Matt Ward signing off. Remember to subscribe. Until next time, kick some ash and crush it. Cheers, guys.